everyone. Megan and I have private conversation like I do with all my guests before I go live, and we don't want to get caught sometimes. So anyway, you are my money girl, and we talk about money once a month or twice a month sometimes, and how scared people are about looking at their numbers, understanding their numbers, knowing their numbers. And this is a big one, bookkeeping, mastering your numbers for success. Tell everyone how they do that.
Okay, the first step is to stop saying that you're bad at numbers. Stop telling yourself that. Stop it. Stop it. This may have started in elementary school. It may have started, I don't know when it started, but stop it. Stop it. You are not too stupid to understand your numbers.
Well, it's being perpetuated in the industry too, because a lot of people use that word. Like, are you afraid of your numbers? You're burying your head in the sand. You don't know. And they start, you're a creative. You're not good at numbers. And they're telling everyone that. And that actually aggravates me too.
Right. You don't need that out. You don't need it. In fact, you're going to be so much more powerful when you're like, oh, I know what I need to look for. I know what to do in this situation. And I'm not going to tell you to go out and take a bookkeeping class to get good at your numbers. I'm not going to do that. I am going to, the first step, if you have a bookkeeper, is to get really curious with them. Because here's the thing about bookkeepers. They're going to keep their head down and do their work and just assume that you have the information that you need. Right?
Unless you tell them.
Unless you tell them and unless you start asking questions. Yes. And bookkeepers aren't that great at answering questions until they know that you're earnest in what you want to know. So set up that meeting with your bookkeeper, go through your finances line by line with them and have them explain it to you. Be humble. Do the thing of like, I have no idea what this means. I know that this says that's what my bank account is, but I don't know how to trust that. How do I trust this number? So if you have a bookkeeper, the path is going to be different. If you don't have a bookkeeper, come over here with me. Let's talk about how to stay on top of your numbers.
Okay.
The first thing is going to be dedicating an hour a week just to get your numbers taken care of. And that may look like, if you are doing your own books and you have your own, like you're in QuickBooks, you're in Studio Designer, whatever it is that you're using for your books, and you think that it's a giant mess, that might be your pause. I just need somebody to give me an orientation here and then I'll be good. Okay. There are definitely tools for you to do that.
Right.
But then I just want you to breathe for a minute, like breathe. Yes, you're going to have this foreign language in your balance sheet and income statement, maybe even a cash flow statement. But really what the main thing is that I want you to understand is your model. These are just descriptions of how your business works, and you know how it works. You do know how it works. You want to know what money is coming in and when. If you need to get out a calendar and write it on a calendar of I have this client paying this invoice on this date, this client paying this invoice on this date, I think I have a deposit coming in here, write it down. When is the money coming in? Okay, then let's get real about what money is going out. What money is spoken for. Like, oh, I need to use that to pay that contractor. I need that to go pay for that material for that sofa.
Furniture,
For furniture, right? Like in this, you don't ignore the pennies. Pennies make things complicated.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because I do think what locks a lot of people up is trying to box to the exact penny all the time, and they get like overwhelmed. It's not going to work. You're saying look at it at a high level, but understand what's coming in, what's going out.
Yep. Just get rid of a decimal point. You don't need it.
Exactly. It just mess you up. Okay.
Yeah, it just mess you up. So I want you to have like a real feel for what the cash is doing. If you can stay on top of cash, pretty much everything else on the income statement and balance sheet, we can get there eventually. That gives you the breathing room to learn how that stuff works, or another method for you getting to the same point, right? Like accounting is a language, and yes, you can become fluent in that language, or you can be conversational in the language. You can know a little bit of the language, but still have your own methodology for getting around.
Yes. And that's what I think most people don't realize. That's what most, even very successful business people do. They know a little bit. But they track their money in, money out, which is what Megan means by cash. If people are watching on replay or live, like when you say know your cash, you're not talking physical green cash. You're talking
Mm-mm.
know your cash flow, what's in and what's out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the dynamic that a lot of people don't put in there is the time. And that's why I say do it on calendar if you have to. Like it's one thing to think like accountant, right? Accountant. I know this stuff. It was so easy for me when I was starting to do my own thing of, oh, I know I have this money coming in. And then, so that means I can go do this retreat. And then I'd forget that, oh, I spent that money on that retreat. I had like money amnesia when I just kept trying to track it in my brain, or I justify, like, if I hire this coach, their testimonials say that people are making 10x their revenue within 2 months. So I can count on making 10x my revenue in 2 months, right? Like the justification that comes when you're not just write that stuff down, write it down, write it
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. So write it down. So if you know you build somebody and they're supposed to pay you tomorrow, give it a week later if you have to. Write it down. Know that that money's coming in,
Yeah.
and know if you have a big bill coming in from a supplier or a contractor. Know the big ones, especially.
Yes. Yes.
All
So,
right.
and that's in truly like that money going out, it's going to have different categories on the income statement or even on the balance sheet. And that stuff gets super confusing of why is that I spent that money, it's not in my income statement. Don't worry about it. Track the money, you will be okay. Now, that's when you get to learn patterns of your money. So once, like, step 1, get into the habit of tracking it, and step 2, now you can go back and see your patterns of where it's going, what's going, when is it that you feel tension, what happens, what's going on that sheet when you feel tension, what happens when you're feeling really flush with cash and maybe you want to start spending it, and you're just starting that awareness, right? These numbers are a translation of the activities going on in your business and even the mindset that you have. That's all this language is describing. That's really all it is. So if we can start to give you the Cliff's Notes of that language,
That's a
you're
good
going to be
starting
okay.
point. Yeah. I mean, I know in my Profit Insiders Academy and in my Essentials, which is my membership site, we have a training on how to read your income statement, how to read your P&L. I daze over when I'm watching the training because it's not easy. So like you're saying, first track your cash flow
Mm-hmm.
in and out. Then you can delve into, when you have
Yes.
time, a little bit of vocabulary knowledge of accounting, but you don't need to be an accountant and you don't need to be a bookkeeper to actually be a good business owner.
Yes. And now we're going to use that information to start going down the path of, okay, what are the metrics that I should be watching? If I want to get really serious about this and be like, have a, start having a full staff and growing my business, now it's going to be important to watch very specific KPIs and metrics, which the same thing, KPIs and metrics.
Key
Like,
performance indicators, right?
yes, in interior design, it's time. You got to know the amount of time that you're spending.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You got to know what you're getting paid for that time, whether you're a flat fee, and that's, you can watch videos of Nancy and I talking about that
A
many
lot.
times
Yeah.
over, right?
Yeah.
You got to know what you're getting paid for. You got to know money coming in, right? Start at the top. Money coming in. What am I getting paid for? How much time does that cost me? What does it cost me to hire somebody to come in, and what are we getting paid for that? And I'll tell you, this metric right here about the time and money value, no matter what client. I have had clients who have been in business for 15 years and have a staff of 7 people, and they
Yes.
don't watch this number. And when we do like start it, they're like, mind blown. They can finally see why things are a little tight over here. They
When
can
they're looking
finally
at their
see.
cash flow.
Yes, like we have a full book of clients. What's going on? Well, it's because, oh, I thought I was charging for X, Y, and Z,
Oh my God.
or I thought we were going to be able to make this much profit. It's actually leaking out through my employees' time, or I was never charging enough for my employees in the first place. I gave my employees a big raise, but I didn't, make up for it on what I was charging my clients. That this metric, we'll talk about a few other ones, but this metric of what you are getting paid for in terms of time, so important.
Okay.
So important. And I'll give you another little hot tip if you want a little advanced.
Yeah.
The hot tip is the percentage of time that people are working versus what you're paying for them. It's really obvious of like what my clients are paying by the hour. That's easy. But if I have an employee who is 50% billable. We're only billing for 50% of their time. And I was doing my math considering them 100% billable.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or
Same with your time, right? So if you have 40 hours a week, because a lot of
you're not billing
entrepreneurs are
40
not
hours a
working
week.
40 hours a week. Others are working 120 and some are working 25 and saying, I don't understand. And I say, how many hours a week are you actually working? So out of, let's say you're working 25 hours a week, 5 hours a day, you're an interior designer and you have children in between. Out of that 25 hours, how much of your time is actually billable?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 30% of your time? Is it 50% of your time? Is it 70%, right? Based on that is also going to show you how much income you're bringing in,
Yes.
right? So all these things are tied together.
I want to point out something that you just said there. When people do this, they kind of roll their eyes. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to. Did you notice that all of the percentages that Nancy and I just gave, all of them ended in a 0? Okay, so while these may be estimates, they're a little bit more accurate of estimates. We are not going to go down and say, okay, last month, Nancy, you were 22.8% billable. Your average is usually 41.6. No, you were 20% billable. Last time you were 40% billable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So curious, do you see an average billable for interior designers?
Yes, I do. And it depends on the role. Okay. If you are an owner and you have employees, you can deduct 10% every month on average per employee that you have just for management time. So if you're usually 60% billable and you hire somebody, once that person is fully onboarded and fully taking care of their stuff, because you're going to be, as you're training them, you're not going to be as billable. But for each employee, you're going to be 10% less.
Really? So your employee has to pick up that 10%?
At least, in a minimum.
We know that's another whole conversation to figure out billable and then how much money it's actually going to bring in your business and all that fun stuff. Okay.
Yes. And the other way is like if you have somebody that's doing a lot of admin work for you, but does a lot of maybe preliminary pulling and putting your binders together and maybe the Pinterest boards and that type of stuff, it's still it's related to the projects. Those people are generally maybe 30 to 50% billable. Okay, because they're going to be, helping out in the library and that type of thing. The admins generally, they're just not as billable, and they're doing some cleanup work that you really don't want to bill your client for anyway. That's just making your life easier and the client's life easier, and they don't notice it.
And so it's freeing up your time by not doing those things that you might become more billable.
Or more effective. Yes. The max that I have seen in a good business where somebody is billable and not just like taking their laptop home and doing stuff while they're watching TV, like max capacity for a really great assistant interior designer or interior designer is 70%.
So 70% of their time is billable, maximum. That's high. I'd even say I'm looking at probably 45 to, well, let's say 40 to 50% billable for most designers. On average, I think, unless they're getting very, very busy and they're putting some of their other stuff aside. Like it depends, right?
Right. I mean, the people who aren't doing sales, right? Like you hired them to come in and do the design. You come in.
Oh, I'm talking about the owner still.
Oh, no. I've never seen an owner with 70%.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that's really high. Okay. Good.
Yeah. When you hire
all right, we're talking the same language, but different words. So yeah, I've never seen an owner be able to pull out 70% of their time.
Never.
I'm looking at more between 40 and 50% of their time is billable if they're lucky.
It's really easy to dream. Like when I don't know if I'm the only nerd that does this. I pull out an Excel sheet and what is possible? What's my capacity? And that is another metric. That's going to be the next metric. That is the really, really great thing to know when you know your time and your people's time and their percent billable. And I'm going to pause here, do a little asterisk. When I say percent billable, don't factor this as their max capacity because you're going to burn out your employees. So if it's like they're able to do 70%, back it down to 60% because that's going to be more likely the top of their average.
So for people who are not confused on percentages, if you're asking your employee to work 10 hours a week and we want them to be 50% billable, that's 5 hours out of the 10 that they work for you. They are working on a client file that you're able to bill against.
Yes.
that client's account. Either you've gotten that money in advance or you're billing in arrears.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. Sometimes
Okay.
I'm a little excited and want to go.
Yeah, you know what I find? It's hard because we are so familiar with the terminology, and sometimes when people are watching, there are different levels of knowledge when it comes to this. So I try to
Totally right. Totally right.
Okay.
So now you can examine your max capacity, right? So if you know that you are 40% billable and you work 40 hours a week, and you know that Megan is only 30% billable and she works 20 hours a week, and Nancy is 60% billable and she works a full 40, you can easily see the math, thank you Excel, on how many billable hours you have per week, per month. You can put a number on there of how much you're billing for each person. And this is your capacity. Now, this is where things get super, I'm going to ask for bravery here. It's exciting, but there are brave things that need to be done here. If you're looking and you have a capacity of, let's say, 70 hours a week of billable time, and let's just give it a flat $200 an hour, just to play with things. So 200 times 70 is going to be $1,400, $14,000, $14,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can bring in $14,000 in design revenue a week.
Design fees, right? Or hourly, whatever you want to call it. Right.
Right. Here's the question that I want you to ask yourself. Do I have the demand for that? Because this is the lever you need to pull. Your capacity for what you're able to do needs to stay at a minimum at the level of your demand or below it. Anytime that you have more capacity than you have demand, all of this is wasted cash.
That's when you start to use it for marketing.
Yes.
Right.
That's where you need to decrease the amount of capacity that you have. You don't want to be paying. There's so many things when people have staff that aren't busy, the staff get bad habits, so that when you do get busy again, they're like, I have to do all of these things over here that are now.
Yes.
You need to decrease the capacity, and that's where the bravery comes in. You need to free up that cash so you can get your marketing up to speed to get that demand back over the amount of capacity that you have.
Okay.
Okay, so those are my major KPIs. Know what your cash is doing.
Know what your cash is doing.
Know your hours and time.
Full capacity that you have realistically with your other life, other parts of your life, and your staff.
And then make sure that that capacity is being utilized, so it's not being wasted. And that's where I say it's brave, because sometimes that means reducing somebody's hours. Sometimes that means letting somebody go. Sometimes it means selling a warehouse.
I mean, sometimes it means bringing on your next big project that you're looking to get off the ground to fill the capacity of the staff, and taking that leap of faith that it's going to bring you the money. And right, there's so many decisions every day everybody makes when it comes to their businesses, what direction to go in. Should they buy something? Should they not? But understanding these two things, I think, is huge.
Yes. These are the two biggest linchpins I see in every person when they're starting to I get it now. That's the turning point for a lot of people when it comes to, that's what I need to be doing. That's what I need to be doing to fix this. Got it.
Yes, that's what I need to be focused on in order to move my business to where I want it to be, or correct something that's not going right.
Yes.
Bravery. Yes. Okay. Did we miss anything, Megan?
Did we miss anything? Encouraging seeking professional assistance for financial management. When I would hire a bookkeeper as soon as you can afford it.
Yes.
It takes so much energy, and not just the time that you're doing it, but the energy of talking yourself into doing it. The mistakes that you make, and the going back and the redoing, and sometimes not even recognizing the mistake, and they pile on themselves.
Yes.
As soon as you can seek professional help, as soon as you can hire a bookkeeper, I'd hop on that.
Yeah. Hiring a bookkeeper, I always say, and you've heard me say it before, learn a little bit yourself, do it a little bit yourself to get a starting point. Get curious for yourself so you have some knowledge. If you are absolutely resistant of doing that, then hire a bookkeeper yesterday and start asking them questions. because you cannot run a successful business over the long haul properly and as profitably if you don't understand your numbers and you're not working with a good bookkeeper.
Yeah. And if you're like, I don't mind bookkeeping and it doesn't cost me that much stuff, like it's fine. It's not that stressful. I don't mind doing it, but I'm a little insecure and stuff. There's definitely places that you can get help.
Yeah, I mean, I did my own bookkeeping for years, and then I had an accountant had one of his staff do it. I wasn't thrilled with the way that was being done, and then I finally took it back, worked with you to learn a lot more about my numbers and how to do it properly. And then when I handed it over to a bookkeeper, wow. And the cleanup was very small on my business because I had worked with increasing my own knowledge and fixing some of the things before I brought on a bookkeeper. But a bookkeeper can really be a good source of helping you clean up what you haven't possibly done right over the years as well. Yeah.
The last point you have here, the role of financial data and using it in informed decisions. Having that cash calendar, writing that out, that's a great stopgap, and that's going to get you a long way. But once you want to start using that data you can run your business with your heart, you can run your business with your brain, and hopefully you're running it with both, right? And so interior designers run their business with their heart a lot of the time. And when they run the parts that they run with their brain, that's the parts that they're good at, the intellectual part of the design part itself. But when we train our brains to also pay attention to the financial side, and that it's not scary, and that it can actually be very empowering. To say yes and no to things very definitively because it's not a skill that I'm going to teach you here in 20 minutes with Nancy, but it is definitely one of those things where it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be painful. It can be fun and it can be easy and you can take your time doing it.
Yeah, I think sometimes people think, oh, my books are messed up. I don't even want to look at it because it's going to take me 6 months to get it cleaned up. Okay, well, that 6 months can start today, this week, if you have an hour this week to start doing the work over the long haul. If you've lived with it messy for this long, you can clean it up over 6 months to a year. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So tell them what you
can. I ask a question?
Oh,
can I ask them a question?
Yes.
What is there? I want people to know. I want them just to give it a little second of thought. What is your biggest obstacle to tracking, like just understanding your time and where it's going?
What is your biggest obstacle to understanding your time and where it's going?
Right. Is it because you're forgetful about it? Is it because it just doesn't seem that important to you? Is it because you haven't found the right tool you really want to do it? Is it because you have ADHD and you're good at it at the beginning and then it just falls off?
I'm going to say that is the primary reason that I hear from my inner circle clients. I'm trying to track my time. I know you told me to track my time, but I'm having trouble tracking my time. I'm like, I don't care if you're putting tick marks for every 15 minutes you're working on a client, or put a little piece of paper every day, put your 15 clients down every time you're working on it, put a tick mark. Anything, your calendar, Harvest, QuickBooks has a time tracker. Almost all the interior design softwares have time trackers. It's getting it done and doing it. So you have to find, like a good diet is different for everyone. You got to find your method that keeps your brain doing it and reminding yourself.
So those of you who are good at tracking your time, why? How'd you get there? What were the struggles that you had?
Yeah, this will help the people who are still struggling with tracking their time. I just say it's making yourself accountable to yourself all the time and leading your life with intention, not letting time and distractions in your day lead where you go in that day. Intentionally set the time you're going to work on certain things.
Yeah.
But give it with some leeway so that if you have an emergency, you can deal with it, right? So track your time. So the question is, are you tracking your time? Are you struggling with tracking your time? Why? And if you're tracking your time, how did you get there where you're tracking it consistently? How did you do that? Why? What made the difference for you? Was it a product that you like tracking on, or was it a mindset shift that you learned from somewhere to learn?
It's like brushing your teeth. You just do it anyway.
And that's the way I listen. I always say, just walk through the complaining, walk through the fear, walk through all the pain, and just freaking get it done. Because my brain tortures me when I don't do something. that I know I'm supposed to be doing. And it's hard to be me when I'm avoiding something.
Yeah.
Right. So that works for me every time. I'm like, okay, I got to stop the pain that's going on. If I just do it, the pain will be over. That's how I do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. So is that Nike? Just do it. So, all right, Megan, go enjoy your beautiful, what, Colorado, you said?
Keystone. It's beautiful.
Oh,
Just gorgeous.
Nice. Well, thanks for being live with me, and tell everyone how to get you and what you can do for them.
You can come on over to megandahle.com. And if you just want to have a little talk, we can have a little talk. If you are finding yourself that you are one of these people that does your own books and maybe you want a little extra help, whether it's accountability or just somebody to take a look, we're still offering Bookkeeping Club. And I have 2 spots open on my Bookkeeping Club now. So if anybody wants to come in and just have a spot to do it and ask questions while it's getting done, and then it's just done in 1 hour a week, it feels good.
Oh my God. I love these weekly accountability clubs. I love them. I think they're a huge benefit for smaller, medium-sized businesses who don't want to hire out yet, and they want to learn simultaneously. There's no better way than what you guys are doing with these clubs, especially the bookkeeping club. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a fun little hour on a Friday morning and just get it done. And then you don't even have to worry about it over the weekend. It's done.
Oh my God, such a beautiful thing. All right, Megan, I will see you next time.
Sounds great, Nancy.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your weather there.
I will.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Talk to you soon.